Los Angeles, California, February 14th, 1998. Saturday evening, 7:30 p.m. The Millennium Biltmore Hotel, downtown Los Angeles. While Valentine's Day crowds fill the streets, inside the grand ballroom, 80 people have gathered for an invitation-only martial arts seminar that will become one of Hollywood's most discussed moments. No tickets, no press, no cameras. The International Stunt Association organized it, sponsored by 3 major studios. The guest list: stunt coordinators from billion-dollar franchises, fight choreographers who defined modern action cinema, A-list actors who do their own stunts, legitimate martial artists who consult for the industry. Everyone here speaks the language of impact and timing. The ballroom is elegant. High ceilings, ornate molding, chandeliers casting warm light. Rows of chairs face a raised platform. The rule: no cameras, no media. This is where professionals can speak freely, debate, and test ideas without public scrutiny. At the front stands Steven Seagal, 46 years old, 6'4", 240 pounds, wearing traditional aikido hakama and black gi. Over 30 years of aikido, 7th degree black belt, a decade in Japan under legitimate masters. One of few Westerners granted teaching credentials in classical aikido. His credentials are real, his skill genuine. For 45 minutes, he's demonstrated aikido techniques. Wrist locks making stuntmen tap instantly. Throws sending partners flipping with minimal effort. His teaching is authoritative, unapologetic. When he claims aikido's superiority for real combat, he speaks with absolute conviction. The audience watches respectfully, some nodding, others quietly skeptical. The demonstration shifts to Q&A. Moderator Robert Chen fields questions. They've been technical until now. Then someone asks, "Steven, what about Wushu and Chinese martial arts? The Hong Kong guys are doing incredible things. How does aikido compare?" The room shifts. This is dangerous territory. Seagal pauses, then speaks with certainty. Wushu is beautiful. Incredible athleticism. But Wushu is not combat. It's performance, designed for judges, for points. Aikido is about real-world application, controlling energy, redirecting force, neutralizing threats in actual violent confrontations. He continues, "These Wushu athletes are incredible gymnasts. But in real confrontation, traditional Japanese arts like Aikido have fundamental advantage because they're designed for real application, not demonstration. I've trained Navy SEALs, law enforcement, military personnel. They need practical, efficient methods that work under stress, not flashy techniques." The audience quiets. Some nod. Some are uncomfortable. What Seagal doesn't know, can't see because stage lights are in his eyes, is that Jet Li sits in the 8th row. Casual clothes, no indicators of rank. He arrived late, invited by a stunt coordinator. He sits quietly beside his manager and translator, expression neutral. He doesn't react to Seagal's statements, just watches, listens, calm. But several people know Jet Li is here. The coordinator who invited him, a few others. They feel creeping tension. One of the greatest Wushu practitioners alive, 5-time national champion, is listening to someone describe his art as performance rather than combat. Chen senses the shift, prepares to conclude before discomfort escalates. But a quiet voice cuts through. "Excuse me, may I ask a question?" Heads turn. Seagal squints past lights. Chen's expression shifts. He knows that voice. Jet Li rises slowly. Light catches his face. Recognition ripples through the audience. Jet Li is here, about to engage. Chen nods. "Of course, Mr. Li." Jet Li speaks from where he stands, his voice carrying clearly. "Thank you. Mr. Seagal, I have great respect for Aikido. I have watched demonstrations, and I understand it is sophisticated art with deep tradition. I have question, not to challenge, just to understand. You say Wushu is performance, not combat. But Wushu has many forms. Some are modern performance, yes, like competition. But traditional Wushu, older systems, they were developed for real combat, for battlefield, for protecting life. Many Chinese martial artists in history were soldiers, bodyguards, people who fought for real. So I am curious, when you say Wushu is not combat, do you mean all Wushu, or just modern competition forms? It is carefully worded, respectful, genuinely inquisitive, but weighted. It suggests Seagal's categorization may be too broad, that his understanding incomplete. It opens a door for refinement, acknowledgement of nuance. Seagal could take the diplomatic route, acknowledge the distinction, adjust his position, but he is not a man who defaults to diplomacy when he believes he is right. I understand what you're saying, and yes, historically there were Chinese systems designed for combat. But what we see now, what's being taught now, especially what's coming to Hollywood, it's primarily modern Wushu. And modern Wushu, with all due respect, is government-standardized performance art. It's designed for judges. The stances are too low for real mobility. The techniques are too extended for practical defense. The training focuses on flexibility and athleticism rather than combat application and resistance. That's the reality of what the art has become. The tension is no longer subtle. It is present, palpable. This is no longer abstract discussion. This has become specific, pointed, a direct assessment of the art Jet Li has spent his life mastering. Jet Li responds, I understand your perspective. You have trained many for real situations. But I think maybe there is misunderstanding about Wushu training. Traditional Wushu includes sparring, conditioning, close-range techniques, grappling, weapon defense, many things not shown in performance. So maybe question is not whether Wushu is combat or performance, but whether practitioner has trained for combat application. Chen intervenes. Talk rarely settles these matters. Demonstration does. Gentlemen, fascinating discussion. Steven, you've demonstrated Aikido all evening. Jet, you've raised interesting points. Would it be valuable to do brief demonstration together? Not competition, just collaborative demonstration of principles? Carefully framed as collaboration. But everyone understands what it represents. Seagal doesn't hesitate. I'd be honored. Jet Li is world-class. It would be valuable to see how different systems approach the same problems. All eyes to Jet Li. He could decline, but declining once challenge is issued, even disguised as invitation, carries meaning. He nods once. Yes, educational. The room inhales collectively. This has transformed into something they'll discuss for years. Chen gestures to platform. Jet Li walks down, climbs the steps. The visual contrast becomes stark. Seagal, 6'4", 240 pounds, traditional Hakama. Jet Li, 5'7", 145 pounds, street clothes. The size difference immediately, undeniably obvious. Steven Seagal turns to the audience, voice calm and instructional. One of Aikido's core principles is controlling the opponent's center and redirecting their energy. People think Aikido is passive, only defensive, but that's misunderstanding. Aikido is about efficiency. You use the opponent's force against them. You don't meet strength with strength. You meet strength with technique. He turns to Jet Li. Let me demonstrate a basic scenario. Jet, please grab my right wrist with your right hand. Full grip, real commitment. Jet Li steps forward, places his right hand around Seagal's wrist. Firm, respectful, not aggressive but not theatrical. Real contact, real engagement. Seagal begins his technique, classical Aikido response to wrist grab, a kote geishi variation, the wrist-turning throw that's Aikido's signature. He rotates his wrist, applying leverage to force the joint into position where resistance becomes painful, where the only option is to release and follow the throw to avoid injury. But something unexpected happens. Seagal's rotation begins correctly. leverage angle textbook perfect. But Jet Li's grip doesn't weaken. His hand doesn't release. His structure doesn't collapse. The technique, which should be forcing Jet Li's wrist into compromise, encounters a stability that shouldn't be there, a rootedness that defies the mechanical advantage. Seagal increases pressure, commits more force. He's applying legitimate technique with legitimate intent, the kind that in thousands of demonstrations caused partners to tap out. But Jet Li's hand remains fixed, fingers wrapped with calm, steady pressure, not straining, not fighting, just present, immovable. 3 seconds. Nothing changes. The audience watches in confused silence, trying to understand why the technique that worked flawlessly all evening is now stalled against someone 95 pounds lighter. What the audience cannot perceive is that Jet Li isn't resisting through muscular force. He's maintaining structural alignment through his entire body, from feet through legs, through core, through arm, through hand, creating unified support that distributes pressure across his entire frame rather than isolating it in his wrist joint. It's what internal Chinese arts call whole-body power, strength coming from skeletal alignment and integration of the entire body into a single functional unit. Seagal adjusts, tries different angle, more commitment, more force. No longer gentle demonstration. This is legitimate attempt to execute a technique he knows works. Jet Li's grip still doesn't release. But now something else happens. So subtle most miss it initially. As Seagal commits more force, Jet Li's left hand, hanging relaxed at his side, rises smoothly and places itself lightly on Seagal's right elbow. Not grabbing, not striking, just touching, fingertips on the joint. In that instant, Seagal's technique stops working entirely. The leverage he was applying, the rotation he was forcing, all neutralizes. Because Jet Li, with minimal pressure, has taken control of the elbow joint, the fulcrum around which the entire technique pivots, rendering the wrist lock mechanically ineffective. The positions freeze, Seagal attempting a lock no longer functional. Jet Li maintaining his grip while simultaneously controlling Seagal's elbow. The visual is strange, almost awkward. Two men locked in what looks like stalemate, but is actually something more complex. Then Jet Li does something no one expects. He releases Seagal's wrist, opens his hand, lets go, steps back one pace, creating distance, and bows slightly. His voice quiet, meant for Seagal, but the room is silent enough many can hear. Aikido wrist lock, very effective. My grip was too tight, too committed. In real situation, I would not grip like that. I apologize for making demonstration difficult. Graceful exit. Way to de-escalate. Allow Seagal to save face. Suggest the issue was Jet Li's overcommitment rather than any flaw in Aikido. The response of someone with no interest in humiliating an opponent. But Seagal, whether from ego or genuine belief the demonstration is incomplete, doesn't accept the exit. No, that was fine. That was real resistance, which is what we need. But let me try from different angle. Instead of you grabbing me, let me control you. Show how Aikido works when you're the one being held. A moment of hesitation, fraction of a second where the room holds its breath, where everyone understands what's being proposed is shifting from demonstration into something more competitive. But Jet Li, with the same calm respect, nods agreement. Seagal reaches out, grabs Jet Li's right wrist with his left hand. Firm, substantial, the grip of a man 95 pounds heavier, trained specifically in joint control for 3 decades. He immediately applies pressure, begins rotating Jet Li's wrist into kotegaeshi position. For 1 second, the technique begins to work. Jet Li's wrist starts to rotate, leverage takes effect, Seagal's superior size and strength combined with technical proficiency beginning to force compliance. But then, in movement so economical it almost seems like nothing happened, the dynamic shifts entirely. Jet Li's free hand, his left, rises and makes contact with Seagal's left elbow, same controlling position as before, but with different intention. This time, instead of simply neutralizing, Jet Li applies gentle but precise pressure to a specific point on the inside of Seagal's elbow, a pressure point where nerve clusters run close to surface, where correctly applied pressure creates immediate, involuntary nervous system response. Steven Seagal's grip weakens instantly, not by choice, but because his hand receives signal from his nervous system, message that continuing to grip will result in increasing discomfort, and his body, operating on reflexes faster than conscious decision, complies. His fingers open, his grip releases. Simultaneously, his body, seeking to escape the pressure, shifts weight, takes small step backward to create distance and relieve sensation. The entire sequence, from Seagal's initial grip to his reflexive release and backward step, takes perhaps 2.5 seconds. But those seconds contain enough information to fundamentally alter understanding of everyone in the room who has experience to recognize what just happened. Jet Li immediately releases pressure, drops his hand, steps back, bows deeper this time. Expression apologetic, genuinely concerned. "I'm sorry. I did not mean to cause discomfort. Pressure point technique not appropriate for friendly demonstration. My mistake." The room is absolutely silent. Not anticipation, but people trying to process what they witnessed, trying to reconcile size difference, style difference, expectation versus reality. Steven Seagal stands on platform, breathing slightly heavier, arms still tingling from nerve pressure, mind working through what occurred. He is man of pride, of certainty, but also legitimate martial artist with decades of real training, and he recognizes when something has happened he didn't anticipate, can't easily explain. He looks at Jet Li, really looks, perhaps for the first time seeing not Wushu performer or movie actor but practitioner who has accessed technical refinement outside Seagal's framework of understanding. He extends his hand. Jet Li takes it. They shake, and Seagal speaks, voice quieter now, less performative, more genuine. That was not standard Wushu." Jet Li responds with equal quietness, sincerity. "Traditional Chinese martial arts include many things not seen in competition. Pressure points, joint manipulation, internal training. Different methods, same goal. Effective technique for real situations. Aikido also has these things. Different culture, different approach, same understanding of body and vulnerability." Seagal nods slowly. "Yeah, I see that now." He turns to audience, teaching persona returning but tempered with something new, note of humility, acknowledgement. "What Jet demonstrated is something that exists in Aikido too, knowledge of body's weak points, pressure points, nerve clusters. We call it Kyusho Jutsu, advanced aspect of art. What he showed is that this knowledge is not unique to any one system. Different cultures discovered same truths about human anatomy and how to exploit it efficiently." He looks back at Jet Li. "I spoke too broadly when I categorized Wushu as only performance. I see now that what you've trained, what you know, goes deeper than I understood. I apologize." Jet Li bows. "No apology necessary. Aikido is sophisticated art. I learned from you tonight. Thank you." The audience erupts into applause, not polite, but genuine, enthusiastic recognition of what they witnessed. Real exchange, real testing, real mutual respect between two legitimate practitioners from different traditions. Robert Chen steps forward with microphone, voice carrying relief and satisfaction. "Gentlemen, thank you. That was educational in ways we're all still processing. Good note to end the evening." As the seminar concludes, people stand, gather belongings, break into conversations. Seagal speaks quietly with Navy SEAL consultants, discussing what they saw, analyzing pressure point application, acknowledging its technique set. He needs to explore deeper. Jet Li is approached by stunt coordinators and choreographers, all wanting to understand more about traditional Wushu's combat applications, recognizing what they saw wasn't movie magic, but legitimate technique refined over decades. In corners of the room, in quiet conversations that will continue in parking lots and phone calls over following weeks, a narrative forms. Not who won or lost, because what happened wasn't a fight and was never intended to be, but narrative about what happens when assumptions meet reality, when categorical statements encounter nuance, when a 240-pound aikido master discovers that a 145-pound wushu practitioner has tools and knowledge that don't fit expected categories. 3 days later, on Lethal Weapon 4 set, a stunt coordinator tells the story to Mel Gibson during break. Mel's immediate, "We need to film that. That needs to be in the movie." But Jet Li politely declines. It was private moment, not for public. Steven Seagal is respected martial artist. No reason to make it public story. 14 years later, 2012, journalist asks Jet Li about persistent rumors of confrontation with Seagal at Hollywood seminar in late 90s. Jet Li's response, brief, diplomatic. Steven Seagal is excellent martial artist with many years serious training. We once demonstrated together at private event. Respectful, educational, different styles, different approaches, mutual respect. That's all. Seagal, same year, different journalist, same rumor, gives surprisingly similar response. Jet Li is legitimate practitioner. We worked together once. He showed me some things about Chinese martial arts I didn't fully appreciate before. Smart guy, real technique. But the 80 people who were in that ballroom on February 14, 1998, they remember more. They remember stillness of Jet Li's grip against wrist lock that should have worked. They remember precision of pressure point application, causing involuntary release. They remember mutual respect in handshake afterward. And most of all, they remember the lesson that evening taught, not about which martial art is superior, because no single demonstration can answer that, but about danger of categorical thinking, importance of respecting traditions you don't fully understand, and reality that effectiveness in martial arts is determined not by style or size, but by depth of training, sophistication of technique, and individual practitioners' ability to apply principles under pressure. No cameras recorded what happened. No official documentation exists. But among Hollywood's martial arts community, among stunt coordinators and fight choreographers and action stars who were there or heard from trusted sources, the evening has achieved legendary status. Not as fight, not as confrontation, but as one of those rare moments when theory met practice, when words gave way to technique, and when two practitioners from vastly different traditions found common ground in mutual respect and acknowledgement that mastery exists in many forms, across many cultures, and cannot be confined to any single system's ideology.